Daniel Dynamite Dubois knocks out Anthony Joshua in round 5 to retain his IBF World Heavyweight title, but more importantly, to secure his position as a valid heavyweight contender. Now, in my opinion, this wasn't necessarily an upset. You can see my post-fight, pre-fight breakdown here. However, if you bet on Anthony Joshua, don't feel bad. You're in good company, because according to the broadcast stats right before the fight, 83% of viewers thought that AJ was going to win. And in the little survey I did, I think over 60% of the people who voted thought AJ was going to win this fight. Now, if you didn't have a chance to see the fight live, which I didn't, you can catch it. Folks have posted the full fight here on YouTube, so do check it out because it's a terrific fight. Now, right off the bat, both fighters get right at it, as we say. And right away in round 1, you'll notice a couple of themes, I think, that carried on throughout the fight, which I'll circle back to. So one theme was that Dubois did have live feet, meaning he was constantly sort of bouncing on his feet. Now, when I say bouncing, I don't mean bouncing up and down like a bunny rabbit, but instead doing that same motion that everybody should do when they jump rope, which is you land one foot and then the other foot. They don't land simultaneously. And that's what Dubois was doing to kind of move in and out deftly. Now that foot movement, that footwork did allow Dubois to be more effective with his jab, because he would take that step in with his jab, which helps him close distance and land the jab with a little more authority. Joshua, on the other hand, was continually throwing single jabs from a planted foot position. Another theme that was constant throughout the fight were the guards used by both fighters. So Dubois kept his both fists up by at about between chin and shoulder height. His elbows are a little bit out, but not to a fault. Anthony Joshua, on the other hand, kind of had this curious guard position, which again I'll circle back to this at the end. He did the fist over fist guard in sort of mid-chest position, which I don't think served him very well in this fight in terms of trying to utilize his best weapons. So somewhat predictably in round 1, Dubois is kind of hunting down AJ, and AJ's every now and again throwing a jab, but kind of mostly trying to circle away. And right in the last 10 seconds of round 1, Dubois throws a big right hook. Joshua deftly weaves underneath it with a very tight weave, but as AJ circles away with his hands not up in a guard position near his head, Dubois launches another overhand right, and this time it catches him right on the chin. AJ's back is against the ropes, and AJ goes knock-kneed, kind of drops down. Both of AJ's fists touch the canvas along with his foot. And so the referee initiates a count. AJ gets up at 4 on the 4 count, but then it's the end of the round, so he makes his way back to the corner. Now, one question I have for those of you who caught the fight live, I don't know if they caught AJ's corner work between rounds 1 and 2, but I'm curious to know what his cornermen and cutmen did to help revive him between rounds 1 and 2, because that is incredibly crucial right there. AJ's corner should have been using a lot of ice, not only behind the neck, but also ice water down in the lower back. It's not pleasant, but it will wake you up suddenly. Now, it seemed to me, and I may be mistaken, but it seemed to me that Joshua was up off the stool a little bit early. When your fighter gets dropped in the first round, it's pretty critical, and you might as well eke out as much time as you can. Let him sit there until that bell goes practically, and force the referee to make you get up, just to buy yourself like 1 or 2 more seconds in the corner. Now in round 2, Dubois starts out by just applying pressure. To his credit, he didn't, as we say, go crazy and try to take AJ out straight away, but he did apply pressure. He kept AJ on the run, and then he'd open up with a barrage of hooks, both left hooks and right hooks, similar to what we saw him utilize versus Jarrell Miller. Now, the second round was the only round in which AJ didn't get dropped, but what was really concerning to me was at one point Dubois was able to snap AJ's head back with the jab. So, yeah, that's concerning, both on the part of AJ's, I would say, not keeping his chin tucked and not having sufficient head movement to avoid that. But certainly if when Daniel was able to snap AJ's head back simply with the jab, that must have given him even more confidence for the upcoming rounds. Now, another theme that kind of played out throughout the entire fight was that neither AJ nor Dubois seemed to want to really fight a lot on the inside, where I thought Dubois would have the advantage. Both men wound up clenching a fair amount once the distance was closed, and the ref did warn Dubois a couple times about sticking his left forearm kind of across where AJ's neck is. Now, in the third round, to his credit, AJ does land some decent jab right hands, but towards the end of the round, again, Dubois catches AJ with a big left hook. AJ's back is towards the ropes, so he falls into the ropes. At one point, it's the ropes alone that are holding him up, and then he falls forward, so both fists touch the canvas, at which point the referee really should have started the count right then and there. But for whatever reason he doesn't, and since it's towards the end of the round, to his credit again, AJ has the mental clarity to figure out, once he beats the count at 6, he makes his way sort of towards his own corner, which is a smart thing to do, so as soon as the round ends officially, he can sit right down on his stool. Now, oddly, Ben Davison enters the ring before the ref kind of, I think, finishes the count or something, which I don't know what the exact rules are, but they didn't DQ AJ, and Davison kind of took advantage of that, I suppose, but that was just a little side note. So now at the end of round 3, AJ has been down twice. This means that Dubois is now up 30-25. That implies that AJ needs to win 6 rounds in order to try to eke out a decision. So I'm guessing that in his mind he knows really he needs to stop Daniel if he wants to win this fight. Now in the 4th round, it's, I think, fairly apparent that AJ really hasn't recovered, maybe even from that initial knockdown. In just the 3rd punch Daniel Dubois throws, a left hook, he winds up dropping AJ again. Now AJ beats the count, but then curiously later on just a little bit later on in the round, AJ touches the canvas once again, and the referee waves it off as no knockdown. Now I watched that a couple times and couldn't quite figure out how that was justified, but maybe one of you guys can help me understand why the ref waved that off. Well, one more point of curiosity, in the US, when a ref wants to indicate that the fighters touched the canvas but it's not counting as a knockdown, they kind of wave their hands across each other below their waist. But in this case, the ref waves his hands across each other like up in the air, and that typically indicates like he's waving the fight off. So that kind of threw me off a little bit, but I guess maybe the rules are different in the UK. Now, I'd be really curious to hear both corners between rounds 4 and rounds 5. Not sure, of course, what instructions were given to Daniel Dubois, but he starts out, again, of course, similar high pace, heavy pressure. But AJ, brings it, I guess, because he knows, again, that he's going to need a TKO or a KO to get the W. And to his credit, Anthony manages to kind of back Dubois up into the corner with 2 right hands. But then he decides to switch it up to a right uppercut with his chin up. and Dubois throws a simultaneous right hand, knocks Joshua down, and Joshua's just not able to beat the count. He's out on his side on the canvas. And Daniel Dubois, and some would say, shocks the world. Now, if you haven't done so already, please do take a listen to my pre-fight breakdown, because that's where I kind of outline sort of the technical assets and flaws of each fighter. But one thing I didn't anticipate was this sort of very strange guard that Anthony Joshua utilized throughout this fight, which is fist over fist at kind of mid torso level. Now, the odd thing is, normally one would put the left fist over the right fist if you're an orthodox fighter, because that would mean your jab hand is on top. And technically, you should be throwing your jab first, and throwing it more often than your right hand. You throw a right hand lead as an orthodox versus orthodox very seldomly. But for whatever reason, Anthony Joshua keeps his jab hand underneath his right hand. So it's just sort of nonsensical for me, because if you want your lead hand low, then just drop it all the way down and relax your shoulder. That way, some people feel with that lead hand all the way down, you can suddenly throw an up jab. If you coordinate your feet with your jab hand and step in at the same time, it's a great punch, because it's almost like an uppercut because it snaps your opponent's chin and their head straight back. For a good example of someone who utilized the up jab well, take a look at Paul Malignaggi's fights. But Anthony Joshua is not the type of person that throws an up jab. And furthermore, because Joshua has both the height and reach advantage versus Dubois, one would think he would keep his jab hand up right at shoulder height where you want to throw it, so it's there ready, and you can fire it out a little bit faster. So, in all honesty, I really feel that AJ lost this fight in his training camp, because there's just some simple flaws, I would say, that could have been corrected or addressed. Now, I did allude to the fact that since his hands and feet are not coordinated, meaning he doesn't step with his punches, particularly with his jab, that's something that's just been he's never coordinated his hands and feet since he was an amateur, and he simply got away with having that poor fundamental in place. So that's not a habit that's going to get corrected in one training camp. But another flaw that AJ has is that he keeps his chin pretty much out. In other words, he doesn't tuck his chin. That could have been addressed in camp, because it's simple. You simply tell a fighter to hold something, whether it's a tennis ball like Bernard Hopkins described to Joe Rogan. It doesn't have to be a tennis ball. It can be anything. It could be a sock. Just tell your fighter to hold that between their chin, and just hold it under their chin while they're shadow boxing, while they're hitting the bag, and it'll break a fighter out of the habit of keeping their chin up, exposed, as AJ did throughout the entire fight. Now, another odd thing I noticed AJ doing was, not only did he have that sort of fist over fist guard, or it's not really a great guard, it's a pretty sophisticated guard if you're going to use it, but he would also at times just move his fists up and down past each other, like, I don't know, like he's polishing something. But here's the concerning thing with that habit. That's what I call a sub-amateur habit. That's something that really raw beginners will do for some bizarro reason, just move their fists up and down past each other. But that's something that I would want to break a fighter out of before they even have their very first amateur fight. So it's pretty alarming to me when I see a world-class fighter sort of completely regress to habits that I wouldn't even want an amateur sub-novice to do. And so, I've alluded to that with Deontay Wilder in his fight versus Joseph Parker. He just had some alarming bad habits there. And AJ's kind of showed that in this fight versus Dubois. So, here's my question. Is AJ shot? He certainly doesn't need to keep doing this for monetary reasons, I don't think. I can't blame him if he doesn't want to go out on an L, or certainly go out on a KO. But at this point of his career, I think he should just take maybe one or two, in quotations, easy fights, like farewell fights, and call it a day. Because, yeah, the habits he's showing in that fight, in this fight, are just alarming. But I definitely have to give a huge amount of credit to Daniel Dubois, mainly for his mental clarity and being able to keep it together in front of a crowd at Wembley Stadium. Can you imagine? It's almost 100,000 people just roaring. Dubois kept his head in front of that huge crowd, and he also kept his head after having incredible success right at the end of the first round and dropping AJ. That takes an incredible amount of mental discipline not to either, go for the kill right away in round two, or to kind of assume that you got it in the bag and kind of take your foot off the gas pedal. So huge props to Team Dubois and also to Frank Warren, who is now at least 6-0 versus Eddie Hearn. That's got to sting a little bit for the Hearns. Now, as far as where Dubois stands from this point forward, I think no doubt we have to give him AJ's spot in the top 10 rankings, which means Usyk is a champion, Tyson Fury is ranked number 1. I say Dubois is now number 2. In my opinion, I don't think Dubois needs to rematch Joe Joyce, certainly given Joe Joyce's previous or most recent performance. Instead, I think Dubois can certainly ask for a rematch with Usyk, regardless of the outcome between Usyk and Fury. However, by all rights, if Fury happens to beat Usyk, then Dubois wants to go after Fury to vie for undisputed. By all means, I think Daniel Dubois has earned the right to call his shots at this point. He's also in a terrific position because I feel like as a younger fighter, Dubois is still on the rise, as we see. He's had a remarkable trajectory since his loss to Usyk. Whereas at this point, we could say that we'll probably see Usyk and Fury retire within a couple of years. So who do you want to see Daniel Dubois face next? Who would you like to see AJ face next? What were your favorite moments in this fight between Anthony Joshua and Daniel Dubois? Please let me know in the comments below. And folks, if you haven't done so already, please do hit the subscribe button as well as the notification button, because apparently sometimes my pre-fight breakdowns don't get served up to everybody according to the algorithm, apparently. If you enjoyed my pre-fight and post-fight breakdown, please feel free to leave a super thanks or head over to buymeacoffee.com and /Hamaguchi-fight and purchase a coffee. If you need another t-shirt for your gym workouts, check out the merch shelf below. The colors, the t-shirts are available in much better colors than are shown on the shelf. So my favorite are all the heather red, the heather blue versions of the t-shirts. So once again, thank you so much for all your insightful comments and your support, and I'll see you the next